2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is January the 24th, 2022. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Hi, Carl. How's your week?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah? Did you watch any hockey?
Yeah. I watched some hockey. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to expand on that?
No, not really.
All right, because we're a hockey podcast, you don't want to expand on it?
Why don't you expand on it? You know everything.
Why are you so pissy, Carl?
I'm not.
Why are you so pissy?
I'm just answering your questions.
Yeah, you are. Whenever I ask you a question.
Like, I gave you an answer.
Well, it wasn't very good.
Okay. Well, are we done here?
Yeah, we're done.
Tune in next week where we recreate another interaction between the Edmonton Oilers and the media.
I should have just launched into the end song there, eh?
It's time for us to wrap up a pissy Fourth Line show.
Oh, sometimes I think about the things we do and say on here, and I'm like, I don't know if this is funny to anyone, but it's funny to me.
Here's another thing that I always think about. I think to myself, I don't, sometimes, right? Sometimes we have some edits that need to be made, right? And I always wonder what isn't appropriate. And I learned this week that in an interview, accusing someone of being pissy is apparently entirely appropriate because that guy is Jim Matheson. Is he not the head of the Professional Hockey Writers Association?
Yeah, he's like in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
For writing.
Yeah.
That is a Hall of Famer.
Like a Hall of Fame hockey journalist.
Here's actually an interesting side note. I watched an interview, a 5-minute today, with Katie Couric, well-known, high-quality interviewer, and just kind of figuring out like how do you do interviews well, and she was giving some good feedback. And at no point in it did she say, and like she talked about like interviewing like some pretty like controversial figures, right? At no point in it did she say that to get a good response out of someone, you accuse them of being pissy. She never mentioned that. I don't know why she forgot that part.
I keep going back and forth in my head on, is he reacting like this on purpose to get more of a reaction out of the player and therefore a better sound clip? Or did Draisaitl just get under his skin and he unloaded on him? I think that's what happened. The latter.
Yeah, that was, clearly, like, because even in that, right? Did Draisaitl give him anything? No, but he was not. He wasn't rude about it at all.
Nope. Why are you so pissy? I'm not.
And I believe him. I believe him in that moment. I was like, yeah, like we lost the game. Like, I'm not happy right now, but I'm not being pissy about it.
There's just so much anger in Matheson's. He spat his peas out of his mouth. Why are you so pissy? He put force behind it.
Yeah.
Like, how could you be that mad?
Yeah. Look, you are covering the Oilers because this is not, I did not think when we hung up the microphone last week, I did not think that we would be sitting here this week talking about another interaction with the Oilers and the media.
Well, and hopefully this is the last one because they did win this week.
A blind clock is wrong twice a day, right?
They won, and Leon Draisaitl had like 4 points that night.
Yeah, he had some bulletin board material, I think.
Oh man, it was quite the exchange. I both loved it and hated it. Like, it was very entertaining.
Absolutely, yeah, it was great to watch. But I fell for him. Like, I fell for Draisaitl. Matheson was being pissy.
Absolutely.
Draisaitl was not. I also want to know, look, I mean, you're a great writer, right? I'm an okay writer.
Thank you.
Well, like, this guy is a professional, a Hall of Fame level writer. And he could not double down with a different adjective the second time to describe how Leon Draisaitl was doing.
That's how you know he was like legitimately shook.
He could only think of one word.
And it was pissy.
And that's the one, right? I think we all need to, especially like if you're doing interviews and we need to come up with like a vast array of adjectives to be able to describe ourselves and people.
It just blows my mind that he lost all his patience. Like hockey players, remove any of this like drama of heightened losing streaks and stuff. Hockey players are emotionless interviewers at a base level.
Correct.
Okay. So when you have
a handful that give you stuff.
Right. So when you have a long career as a hockey writer that dates back to whatever the 80s or 70s or whatever, like you'd think that he'd be used to at a baseline dealing with these like emotionless players and really having to dig for some good quotes.
Yeah.
So like, I just don't understand how he let it get to him so much when it should, like, to me, Draisaitl wasn't answering questions out of the norm.
No, not even slightly.
So I don't know. It did resurface some old clips so that I really got a kick out of watching again. Like when Voracek went after that one Flyers writer.
Oh my goodness. That was
called him a weasel.
That was a good, see, could have used a word like that, Jim. That was good. That was only a couple years ago too.
Yeah. That was a good one.
I appreciate that. Well, I mean, like you said, Oilers won this week, and a solid win. They got down, had to come back, right? Managed to pull off that win against Calgary, which was good to see. Because it was painful to watch.
Yeah,
in the media. It was painful to watch on the ice. And winner, I mean, I don't hate the Oilers enough to feel like they deserve that.
No, I mean, I think the question for them now is, how well can they bounce back? Like, they've got a lot of games in hand on their division, which I don't actually have the standings up right now, so I don't know exactly where they're sitting, but they've got a ways to climb.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy path forward, but definitely some work to do, and some easy ways for them to get there. So, I think they can easily do it. In their division, they are currently sitting, they're 40 points. They're 7 points back of second in that division, which is the Kings and the Ducks.
So we're not ready to put them in the elimination station yet.
No, they're 4 points. They're 4 points back of the Sharks with 5 games in hand for the wild card.
They'll be fine.
I think they might be able to pull this off, which is unreal that they could have that big of 2 6-game losing streaks in the same season and make the playoffs.
Yeah, but they started off on a heater.
That's the hot and cold that you need sometimes, right? I think
totally.
Back, 3 years ago, Sabres won 10 games in a row, missed the playoffs.
Yeah, classic Buffalo. They always start off well. But then there's also the Blues, who were dead last in January and then went on to win the Cup that same year.
That's a great example, for sure.
Lots of time left. It's not even we haven't even hit the trade deadline yet. We haven't even hit All-Star weekend yet.
That's true. 2 things that apparently are still happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it'd be weird to cancel the trade deadline. We're just going to have trades all year.
I don't think teams would like that. Oh, you mean just let trades happen right up to the playoffs?
Yeah.
Oh, that I like. Trade deadline is the eve of game 1.
There's one day in between playoffs and regular season, and that day is trade day.
Love it.
Why not?
Heighten the drama.
There is no real reason why we have to have a trade deadline at a specific time, right? Like, what is the problem with having it end that day?
I don't know. I guess it's just that teams who are already eliminated are just going to sell off all their pieces. I don't know why that would be an issue. That's what they're doing anyways at the normal trade deadline.
Yeah, you just confirmed who's in and who's out.
Yeah.
it takes away all risk from the teams giving up assets. What do you think that would do to prices? Because it would obviously like very much delineate buyers versus sellers.
Oh yeah, I think prices would shoot up.
Which I think
I don't think playoff teams want the trade deadline to be the eve of the playoffs starting.
Well, good news. Only half of the teams in the league are playoff teams, so they don't really have much of a say because the other half really want it.
It's true. And Seattle's in that half. So if it comes down to a majority vote. Oh no, there's 32 teams right now.
Yeah. I was going to say, how does last one in get to be the tiebreaker?
I thought there was still an uneven amount of teams.
I like that idea though. Like last one in gets to settle all disputes.
It's an awful idea.
None of this original 6 garbage. It's last man in.
Forever. Like you just get to do it until there's a new last one in. Yeah.
So like, which really, makes Seattle not want to do it because then there is no ties, right? The ties become much less. So when the 33rd NHL team comes in, Seattle will be real cranky.
Yeah, exactly.
Since we're there, what are you thinking of the trade deadline? Because it's coming up, right? Sometime in February, typically, unless.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm a little confused about all the dates right now with them pulling out of the Olympics. Like, I don't even know when the All-Star game is. It's got to be February 2, right?
No.
NHL All-Star.
Like next
game.
Week?
Already? Saturday, February 5th.
So that's a week, 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, so that's not, well, it's not this coming weekend. It's the weekend after.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the All-Star game.
That makes sense because it's the weekend between the NHL conference finals and the Super Bowl.
The trade deadline is March 21st.
That is late.
So that is late.
That is because typically the season ends in April, like the end of April. So they're doing it. They're actually doing what we want them to do this year, is pushing it back.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one this year. We'll see kind of like I think the playoff picture will be far more clear at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you want to know the one thing I saw today? I think it was in like Friedman's blog or something like that, but someone tweeted it. Toronto has made an offer for Claude Giroux.
No, really? What do you think the price tag would be for an aging Claude Giroux?
It's got to be high, right? Like from a draft pick perspective. Like there's no way Philadelphia is going to part with their captain and arguably best player. Like there's got to be either a very good prospect or a first round pick.
And the Leafs do not have a very good prospect to part with.
Right. So you think they're going to trade away their first, which would be a very late first. Like it might as well be a second.
Yeah. So multiple picks going back if that's the case. Yeah.
But this is the thing with rentals. Is it worth it for like 3 months of Claude Giroux if you get that far?
I was going to say, it's not even going to be 3 months. It's going to be 3 weeks of the regular season and however far you get into the playoffs.
I don't think I'd pay that for Claude Giroux.
Actually, this is interesting because another consequence, sorry to derail, because I'm looking at his cap hit, right? And his cap hit is 8.275 for the season. I was like, well, the Leafs don't have a lot of cap space.
Yeah.
But by moving back this deadline, you're taking on a smaller portion of their salary. So it actually lets you be able to take on even more salary than you would be otherwise.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So even more money for these teams to take on, but an interesting, certainly an interesting.
I mean, we saw the Leafs trade their first round pick for Nick Foligno last year.
This would be a better move.
It would be a better deal, but I still don't know if I'd part with a first rounder for Claude Giroux.
Yeah, I probably would.
I think the trade. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's something where you have to look at what your window is, right? And the Leafs window is short. Draft picks are not what they're in need of right now. Sure, when they get into rebuild, they're going to be doing the exact same thing, but they need to get some pieces in however they can to add to what they've got.
I don't even think the Leafs need to win a Stanley Cup at this point. I think they just have to win a couple playoff series and like that's their next hurdle.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So is there anyone else other than Claude Giroux? Is there anyone else that you're looking at as we hit this trade deadline time of players that could be on the move?
Jacob Chikrin is an obvious answer because we know that he's on a lot of teams' shopping lists.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that defenseman in Dallas who's like kind of requested a trade but hasn't really requested a trade?
John Klingberg?
He requested a trade. So he's an interesting one too. He's another good defenseman.
He'd be one that I would definitely. I mean, the Avalanche have no need for a second version of. They've got Klingbergs around, but any team should be interested in him.
Yeah, I agree.
He's got some good term left on his deal from what I recall. Just
Klingberg,
yeah.
I thought he was near the end of it. Yeah,
this is it.
Okay, that makes sense.
That surprises me. I was thinking of Heiskanen. That's who I was thinking of.
Well, that's his problem with Dallas right now, though, right? They don't want to talk extension, and he wants to talk extension. And he's saying, "Look, if you don't want to sign me, then trade me."
Exactly. Yeah. From his perspective, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
If you don't want me here, let me go to a team that I can find something permanent.
Okay, here's one that I heard, and I didn't see what the actual source was again, so I'm just kind of going on Twitter. But apparently, the Blackhawks have said that Alex DeBrincat is on the market.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice because that is their piece that was supposed to be the center of this rebuild.
Yeah, and also he's good. Why are they trading him?
That would get a big piece back, right?
Should, yeah.
Because unlike what I thought with Klingberg, DeBrincat actually does still have a significant amount of term of controllable years left. He's young, he's talented, relatively cheap for now, right? I think that would be, if they're going to move, that's the piece that would get the biggest amount at the deadline, but I don't see that happening.
I can't, because you make that move and that's essentially saying, throwing in the towel, right? And saying, okay, we're tearing this thing down. We got to rebuild.
Like we're not even because we're not using him as the center of our rebuild. We are starting from square one.
Which would be an insane thing for them to do after going out and getting Seth Jones for what they did last summer.
Exactly. Right. Like we trade your first round, first, third prospects for all that. And to then turn around and give away a player that is better and cheaper. Nope.
Makes no sense.
Zero. Yeah.
Who else is on? I actually pulled up just the list and there's a few interesting names. PK Subban.
Doesn't particularly interest me. I think
you don't think that would interest a playoff team?
I think
on an expiring contract.
I think that it would be, I think teams would want him, but it's not it's not PK. It's not Norris winning PK. It's
totally
find a way to make him work PK.
No, but that's the case with a lot of these UFAs, right? That's kind of how they get to UFA.
That's fair, right? Phil Kessel, same thing, right? Not exciting, but you're like, yeah, we can find a way to make him work, and maybe we slot up, move him up to the second line and see what he does.
Like he's the one player I think on this list and among all these players that we've talked about who I feel confident is going to be moved.
I think that is a guarantee.
Right? Why not?
There's zero reason. There's no reason for him to stay in Arizona.
Yeah. And the price wouldn't be high, I don't think.
No. From the similar angle, going back to Chicago, which team is going to pony up for Marc-Andre Fleury?
Pittsburgh.
He's going back?
If Pittsburgh, do you think Pittsburgh is going to make a cup run this year?
They've been playing incredibly well.
If Pittsburgh is really considering we can do this, we can go all the way and win one more cup with Crosby and Letang and Malkin, I could see them trading for Fleury just to bring him along for the ride. I don't think he'd be their starter.
No, Tristan Jarry's got that, but he's better than Casey DeSmith.
So you put him on the bench and you let him be part of the group.
And I think we've seen, and with what we've seen with goalies and injuries, you can never have too much goalie depth, especially come playoff time.
Totally.
So if he becomes, if he's their backup and then Jari gets hurt or even just struggles, which happens all the time in the playoffs, right? The amount of times we just even see a goalie switch, right? I think that would be a great pickup for Pittsburgh. And there's not a deadline that goes by that they don't tinker this lineup.
Oh yeah. They're for sure going to make some trades. For sure.
Old Brian Burke's got to do something.
And then looking down the list, there's not a ton of like non-playoff bound teams who have huge UFAs extending. Like I could see someone like Nick Leddy being moved off of Detroit.
Nick Leddy. I
could see a team like taking him on for the playoff run.
One big question mark that I have is Seattle. They just expanded and took Mark Giordano as their captain.
Yeah.
Named him the captain. Do you turn around and trade him immediately as his contract expires?
Yes.
I would say you have it's on one hand, trading him and getting something of value back seems like a no-brainer. But you literally made him the leadership core 5 months ago.
I don't think it matters. Like he's 38 years old. Like, is he going to come back for, like, he's at the age now where you only sign 1-year deals.
Definitely.
Right. So is that who you want your captain to be right now? You're a brand new franchise. You struggled through your first year. Do you want it to be that veteran who may or may not come back?
Well, and for him, right, typically those older players that are on 1-year deals are cup chasing.
Yeah.
And there's no chance that that's happened in Seattle for many years.
No. So it just seems to me it works best for both the player and the team.
Yeah, that seems like a good choice. I think now hindsight, maybe you just go with a slew of assistants in Seattle instead of naming one captain who you trade immediately.
Could be. I mean, they don't really have that one player who just stands out, right? The way Giordano did.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. All right. Anyone else that you're thinking? Because the good news is apparently we have 2 months till the trade deadline. So.
I know we can talk about this for so long, so much. No, let's leave it here for now.
All right.
We'll come back to it later.
Speaking of trades and moves like that, we actually, general managers, the ones making the trades, we got 2 GM moves this week. And I know we literally hung up, and I think you said this after we hung up, stopped recording last week. You were like, you know what we're going to have? We're going to have someone named GM of the Canadiens tomorrow. And we're going to have to wait for this to happen. And like clockwork, 7 a.m. the next morning, the Montreal Canadiens announced Kent Hughes as their new general manager.
Interesting choice, hey? First of all, thank you for the acknowledgement that I was right. I appreciate that.
Always.
But interesting choice. Because we were actually joking after we went off the air last week that they were totally going to hire like someone in the old boys club of hockey. Like who's in their conversation? Daniel Briere was interviewing with them.
Yeah. But here's what I find very interesting about, because for a lot of people, right, myself included, you read the news and you're like, had you heard of Kent Hughes before?
Nope.
Almost none of us had. And so what I find very interesting about this is a very rare way of them to do this, because he is a former agent now turned heel and working for the other side.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, they're one of the first teams to do that, I think, at least in recent memory.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Buffalo moved Kevin Adams, their VP of Business Affairs, over. That's a different job stream.
That's a choice. And we've seen how that's worked. Mm-hmm.
But I can't really think of anyone else who came from the agency side to be in such a prominent role and to just like kind of jump the line too, right? It's not like, hey, come in, get a sense for how we work as hockey ops organization. It's just like, come do the job.
Yeah. An interesting move, but I like it, right? Because they have that understanding and connections on the other side that now you can kind of use some of that potentially to your advantage and understanding, right? These hockey guys who come up, right? All the former players have a really good sense of, compatibility, what you want on the ice, the kind of product you're making, but less so. I mean, yes, they signed contracts, etc., but like their agents did the legwork, right? Yeah. It's interesting that they're really focusing on that side and hopefully surrounding him with the proper talent evaluators to make those moves necessary.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a very smart thing for them to do, because I think that traditionally when it comes to especially contract negotiations and signing players, it can be pretty confrontational, like our side and your side. And what I think bringing an agent in does is it brings in the player's perspective. Like he knows what it's like to be on the other side of the table. He can, they can have a little more empathy. And I think particularly the players are starting to get a little more power when it comes to these negotiations. They're starting to get louder voices. So bringing somebody on board who understands that and who can, work within that is only going to help them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I'm curious to see how this takes them, because it's definitely a business move, a great decision, and curious how it plays off on the ice.
Yeah, well, they're not the only team that went this route this week, hey?
Tell me more.
Vancouver Canucks today announced the hiring of an assistant GM who is also an agent. And I hope you have it up because I cannot remember her name right now.
See, I was hoping you had it up because I need to lean on you to not destroy the pronunciation of her name.
Okay, hold on.
Emily. I'm going to go with Castonguay.
Oh, it's Français?
Oui.
Let's see. I'm pulling up the Emily Castonguay. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I trust you more than I trust me. So
Emily Castonguay. I don't know. Yeah, right. I don't know.
But interesting in two respects, because they went that same business former agent route, but also groundbreaking as the first female assistant general manager in the NHL.
Yeah. What a great thing. It's refreshing. And the Habs thing was refreshing too, because they didn't just bring in someone off the old circuit of 80s hockey players who are in management now. They went outside of the box. And I think Vancouver's refreshing for that reason as well. But also bringing in a woman to such a big job and such a public job, I think takes it a step further.
Yeah. And especially literally, I think everyone was waiting for them to name the Sedins to a role like this, right?
Yeah.
They brought them in kind of the same as the Nick Lidstrom role that we talked about last week, right? Like they brought the Sedins in to be the Lidstrom of Vancouver. But for them to make this choice and just fantastic. Congrats to her, and excited to see what she can bring to that organization that is in desperate need of someone to make good financial decisions for them.
Yeah, no kidding. I think I saw that she actually negotiated, is it the Antoine Roussel deal against the Canucks?
She's like, all right, now I need to figure out how to get rid of this thing.
Yeah,
I've made a huge mistake.
How can I get it off the books now?
And that's certainly a strategy, right? Over negotiate for a player, get it signed, and then get signed as the GM to try to get rid of it. All right, look, I know you've got some problems. You idiots signed this contract. What were you thinking? It's good. I like that.
Well, that general manager job's still open too, right? So don't write the Sedins off yet. It's
true. Very, very true. All right. Let's take a break here. We're going to be back on the other side. We've got some bests and worsts of the week to look at, and Elimination Station. Three, two, one.
Okay, let's get into our Connors and the Coyotes. Which, incidentally, before we get into it, I thought about last week. We could have just named it our Connors and Connors last week.
Connor and the Connors. Yeah, definitely.
Connor for when he was good, and Connor because he's bad now.
I would say he's not bad. He's just pissy.
I like the callback, Carl. I like the callback. All right, let's start with our worst. We share a worst this week.
That's because there is definitively a worst thing that happened in hockey this week.
Not even close.
Not at all. So we very rarely, this might be the only time we have ever covered the ECHL here on the Fourth Line podcast, but it showed up this week because there was an incident on, I don't even know what day it was. Saturday? Was that Saturday? Friday? Either way, over the weekend, there was an incident between Jordan Subban and Jacob Panetta where he made a gesture which was offensive towards Jordan Subban during disagreement, yelling match, scrum, whatever you want to call it, on the ice, racially directed, and led to him being indefinitely suspended by the ECHL.
And I think he was also cut from his team.
Yeah.
Which, like, yeah, don't do that. like don't be a bad person.
That seems, that's, like, no one needed to tell me that, but apparently this guy needed a little bit of help.
It's like, it's hard. And I'm laughing. It's not funny. Like it's not funny, but I'm in disbelief because it keeps happening. And every time it happens, it's like the rock is turned over and everything under it is exposed and everyone sees it. It makes the rounds on social media. Like, it wasn't that long ago, a few weeks, where we saw in the KHL a player making that same gesture and it went viral. If you are at all connected to hockey on social media, which we know that this guy is, you would have seen that. So to turn around and do it, it's mind-blowing to me.
I find it, in a comparable way, and maybe this shouldn't be a can of worms that I'm opening, but I feel, that like that meme that goes around of like someone gets shot in the United States and they're like, how, I don't understand why this keeps happening in the only country that this keeps happening in. And It feels like we're at that point in hockey. I don't understand how we keep doing this, but we're the only professional hockey league that this continually happens in. It also, you may notice, happens to be the whitest professional sports league around. Literally the last place that should, I guess that's probably why, right? But it's just, you can't keep doing this over and over and over again.
Yeah, no, you can't. Like, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's disgusting and it's hurtful. And, at however old this guy is, he's old enough to know that you don't do that. You don't.
No.
It's just it's so frustrating to have to see these things and hear about it again. And we like, we have to keep talking about it. It's, like you see someone like PK Subban get up at the podium, and I'm sure he doesn't want to keep talking about these things over and over and over again, but like, what else are you supposed to do? You can't ignore it.
No. Well, and especially when it's a high profile thing, like he literally can't, like that's his brother that this happened to, right?
Yeah.
And so he's going to get asked, and he's going to stand up for it because he stood up for people he's not related to before, right? Yeah. And said that that's not okay. But we need more players. We need people who are not PK Subban standing up and saying that this isn't okay, because the NHL and the league was shockingly silent this weekend.
Yeah. Shocking. The league with the tagline "Hockey is for everyone." Shocking.
Nothing was said, but even players, right? What other than like people involved in the Hockey Diversity Alliance, other than PK Subban, did you see any player say anything on social media, in interviews?
I saw 3. Okay. 1, John Tavares came out today in his media availability, and he said, before anyone asks me any questions, I want to address what happened at the ECHL.
Good
okay. So that was very good. 2, Jason Zucker posted something on his social media that said, in essence, we need to be better. This can't keep happening. I stand with all my teammates and friends. And 3rd, Tom Wilson said something similar on his social media.
You know what? I did see Tom Wilson say that. You're right.
And it's like, it's refreshing to see, but 3 players, like 3 white guys in a league full of white guys.
In a league full of 600 white guys, 3 of them stood up.
And it's like after what we went through 2 years ago, where the players literally were like, I can't play hockey right now because of what's happening on the streets.
Yeah. I mean, no one's ever accused the NHL of not being performative.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating. I mean, we're not afraid to talk about it. NHL players, you should probably figure it out too.
Yes, please do. Because you have a voice and a platform, and you should use it.
Absolutely. Which brings me to our best of the week. I've got a best, but I know you've got one. So let's start with you, and we'll see if we have time for my best of the week.
All right. My best won't take very long because it's kind of lame, but it's bringing us back to the Oilers. It was right around the time when Leon Draisaitl had his Pissy press conference. There's another player who had an actual heartwarming, motivating press conference. I don't know where this came from, but Brandon Perlini, did you see him talking?
Yeah.
Smile on his face. And he essentially just said, I could almost hear the motivational music playing in the background of the movie, where he said, this is something we have to go through. Winning doesn't feel as good if you don't know what it feels like to lose, and it's going to be okay. And we're going to get through this as a team. And one of the reporters said, well, when is it going to happen? And he just looked at them and shrugged and smiled and said, next game. It didn't, but it was nice. The whole thing was just like, I like this guy. It gave me a warm feeling in my stomach.
Yeah. So clearly our trend is interactions happening in media, because mine also has to do with something that happened in the media, but in like a very different way, different tone for all of it. Did you see what happened this week between Vincent Trocheck, Brad Marchand, and like the Carolina Hurricanes social media team?
Great exchange.
So it all started when, and they were playing each other. I get it. But like one of the reporters asking stupid questions is apparently a theme this week. Vincent Trocheck was asked if his game was similar to Brad Marchand's, to which he responded with, "Are you calling me a rat?" which is a great way to answer that question. To which the reporter asked, "Why are you so pissy?" And he said, "I'm not." And they continued on from there. So as Brad Marchand does, he did not let that slide. So he said, I've never seen a Lamborghini compared to a Prius before. And then they played that night, and Vincent Trocheck lowered the boom, pretty clean but heavy hit on Marchand, to which the Carolina Hurricanes social media account said, "Never seen a Prius total a Lambo before." And then, after all of this, the Hurricanes won that game 7-1.
It's brutal.
And their post-game tweet with the score was L stands for Lamborghini. Amazing.
But it doesn't end there, does it?
I forget. Marchand said something else too. But
Marchand tweeted at them or commented on their Instagram or something and said basically, "You are the reason our escrow is so high."
Oh, right. You're the reason our escrow is 20%. I forgot about that part.
And then the Carolina Hurricanes changed their Twitter bio to something like, "This account should not be blamed for escrow."
Which I also appreciate, because not only did he tweet that, because then Alan Walsh, the agent.
Yeah.
Speaking of agents, he decided to step in on this. I'm going to see where I can find his tweet, because he had his own thoughts to share. Where is it here? Maybe Alan Walsh tweets a lot.
Oh, he tweets so much, dude. You know, he has his own podcast now too.
I only listen to our podcast, so I wouldn't know.
Just on repeat?
All day, every day. Literally hop in the car, press play, and drive. Just do some laps. Oh, he does it with the Dangle Boys?
Yeah, on Steve Dangle's podcast network.
That's good.
I think it's him and Adam. What's his name? Adam
Wilde.
Yeah.
I can't find it here. He had another tweet. Maybe he deleted it because it was a good one too. I like that. That's just some fun. The Hurricanes, I don't know what they do. I don't know what it is that they just continue to be able to pick these fights, seemingly meaningless fights, and just poke the bear in every way possible. But I appreciate it.
I love how spicy their social media team is. Like, it's so like they perfectly walk the line of being chirpy but not being offensive.
Yes. Like, it's, if you are that team, like, you're probably a little hurt, right? Like, Bruins fans do not like the Hurricanes now, in the same way that Montreal Canadiens fans don't like the Hurricanes, but that's not their goal, right? No one from Boston or Montreal are ever going to wake up one morning and be like, you know what I should be? A Carolina Hurricanes fan. So just lean into it.
So they do it so well. And then on the other side of this exchange, Brad Marchand, like, did something go off for him this year that he's just like, you know what? F it. I'm just gonna unleash on social media.
It's true, because he's replying to all kinds of things. He might reply to this episode. If I just mention him, I'm sure that he has a search set up for him, right? Like, he's got his tweet deck there. He's like, there's the Brad Marchand tab at that column, and he's just skimming it. What are people saying? What am I going to reply?
Could just see Brad Marchand and then using like updates to TweetDeck that frustrate him as fuel on the ice.
Yes,
because it's impossible to not get mad at TweetDeck.
No.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Brad Marchand this year, but he's got a voice.
Which it has, as much as I do not like Brad Marchand, he's kind of come around a little bit up for me the last couple of years.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
Okay.
Let's move on. You said your best, and it was a good one.
The Elimination Station. Let's go.
All right.
All right, this is where we eliminate one team from the NHL playoffs. We are 2 weeks in. We so far have eliminated. We should start that running list that we had.
I have before. It. I started it. Yes, okay. I started it last week.
All right, good. Thank you. I appreciate that, because I hadn't, and we will forget. So we so far have eliminated two teams, the Arizona Coyotes and the Montreal Canadiens. So we need to figure out, first, who to eliminate, and second, how we fix them to get them back in the playoffs.
So I have a team. I don't think it's the most obvious choice, but I think it's safe to eliminate them.
Okay.
And B, they deserve it after the stretch of play that they've had recently.
It might be the same team as me.
Ooh, that would be fun.
I mean, it does seem a little bit early, but I'm ready for it. Do we just say it on the count of three?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll say the team. I'll say welcome to the Elimination Station, and then we both say the team. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Welcome to the Elimination Station. Detroit
Philadelphia
Red Wings.
Flyers. What? Detroit?
Philadelphia. That is not who I was going to pick, actually.
Detroit? Come on, man. They're look, they're not close to a playoff spot, I'll admit, but there are two other teams below them who are not even close to them.
I just wanted to know how you would feel about that. Now I knew.
Get out of here. We're not eliminating Detroit this week.
I wanted
last year.
The team, no, they're having, a very respectable season in Detroit.
Thank you.
I was going to go Seattle this week.
See, that was the obvious choice to me. But Philadelphia is on their second 10-game losing streak of the year.
Well, and since we've already talked about Claude Giroux being sent out of town, let's do it. There's no chance that we have to take them out of the Elimination Station.
There's
right?
no way. There's no way.
Promise?
Well, obviously. Like it's January. We mentioned St. Louis earlier, but I feel pretty good about Philadelphia not pulling a St. Louis.
All right. Welcome to the Elimination Station, Philadelphia.
There, we got it that time.
We nailed it. I like, one thing I like about this is because in that division, right, the Metro, a very strong division at the top, and you've got a smattering of mediocre or worse teams at the bottom. The Islanders were in that group of bad teams. With all of the games that they've had postponed, they're sitting at point per game, which isn't great, but room to improve. Lots of games left. So I think Philadelphia is definitely going to be battling with New Jersey and Columbus for that final spot there.
Yeah. They're just, I don't know. I didn't think they were going to be this bad. Did you think they were going to be this bad? Like they shouldn't be this bad.
They should not be this bad. No.
So let's do our elimination station process here. What's going on? Like what do they need to do to fix this?
Well, so let's take a look at who and what they have, okay? Because this year, Sean Couturier missed significant time so far this year.
Yep.
Right. And you mentioned previously, like Claude Giroux is their best player. Sean Couturier is their best player.
Yep.
So they've got that problem. They made some pretty big changes on defense this season, right?
Yeah. And again, didn't really get the full impact of it.
No. I mean, Rasmus or Solinen, whatever. Because who did they trade in that deal? Nolan Patrick, right? No.
Was that the Ristolainen deal? That was the Ryan Ellis deal.
That was the Ryan Ellis deal. Yeah. And Ryan Ellis is like out big time.
Yeah. Ristolainen, they traded a first round pick for him.
That's first, second.
I think it was a first, my friend.
They still have all of their firsts for the next 3 years.
Then it was not a first.
It was not. Tips say not a first.
I'm going to pull it up. It was a first round pick.
They must have gotten it back then.
Oh, it was last year's first round pick.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that makes more sense. But like they traded away a second round pick to get rid of like they paid money for Shane Gostisbehere to leave. And none of that has come to fruition this year. I think this is a team in desperate need of, I know that they've already made some, but this is a team very much in need of coaching changes. They need a good coach because I think they have the players in place to get it done.
They're getting into Edmund territory with coaching changes, though. Maybe not as frequent, but like how many coaches have some of these players seen?
Alain Vigneault was there for a while, was he not though?
Who's there now?
Mike Yeo.
Oh, I forgot about Mike Yeo. And then Alain Vigneault. Yeah, I guess he was there for a few years, wasn't he?
Yeah. And Yeo's only interim. So like they have the option to figure out their lives.
Well, and Mike Yeo was the assistant coach, was he not?
Yeah.
Who they then promoted for an indeterminate amount of time.
Probably end of the year. But I mean, when you have multiple of these losing streaks, he's clearly showing he's not it either.
Yeah.
So I think this is a situation where Yo can't be back. Like if I'm them, I'm not bringing him back.
There's no way.
You've got to bring in someone. Maybe there's a former agent they could bring in. Like they got to start thinking outside the box.
An agent for behind the bench.
Why not? We're doing it all over the place.
just bring the agents in. They should sign all the agents to management jobs, and then all the agencies should hire old NHL players. That way you get the same negotiation, just backwards.
I like that. It would make for a very interesting, I mean, I guess it still does, right? Like the guy was on your line and now like he's trying to not give you any money. That's got to hurt. Now at least he's fighting for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
so I agree with you. I think from a player personnel standpoint, they're not in a terrible position.
No.
So they need a new voice. Is where we've landed.
Is that the only change that they need to make?
I mean, they can tweak the lineup a little bit, but I think the core pieces are here.
Speaking of, I mean, he's not a core piece, but Keith Yandel set the Ironman record for them tonight.
I saw that. Did he tie it tonight or did he pass it?
I believe he passed it tonight. I could be wrong.
It's quite the achievement, especially after last year in Florida when he almost got scratched.
Yeah, it was touch and go. But okay, so free agents this year, okay, if they're already eliminated from the playoffs, the only free agents, Claude Giroux, already talked about him. Okay. Clearly going to be a market for him of some kind. Ristolainen, Justin Braun, Keith Yandel. Is there a market for any of these guys?
Ristolainen, I think there's probably a market for him. I mean, you're not going to get a first round pick. You were the only team who was dumb enough to do that.
That's why they got him, because they offered the most picks. Turns out.
Yeah, I think there's a market for Ristolainen. You're not going to get much for him, but I think you can move him. Probably get a second round pick for him.
I think 1 second seems reasonable for him, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Claude Giroux, you can definitely get more for him. Yeah. It's just like, is this the end of the road for Giroux in Philadelphia? Or is this go chase your cup and then we'll talk about next year when you're done?
No, it's very rare that you send the guy off and he comes back. Like almost never, right? That you trade a guy at the deadline and then he's like, oh yeah, I'll be back. They're never back. Can you think of any examples right now in recent years of that happening?
Not off the top of my head. Did Taylor Hall do that somewhere? No, he got traded to Boston and signed there. Yeah, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. They were talking about Foligno doing that last year and he didn't do that.
Literally, like if Foligno didn't do it, no one's going to.
Yeah.
Is what that felt like.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially because where did he end up?
Boston,
that's right. Everyone's ended up in Boston, apparently.
Yeah.
Well,
and they're only okay.
I think they'll get better. I should stop. Why am I saying so many good things about Boston?
Yeah, it's not good.
All right. So welcome to the Elimination Station, Philadelphia. We will hope for more for you next year. Let's take a look at our standings of high sticking. I think next week, should we hand out a prize pack?
Yeah.
All right. So this is our final week before we hand out our smaller prize pack. We were going to originally do this at the Olympic break, which the NHL fully filled that schedule and there is no more Olympic break. So probably like beginning of March, we'll do this again. The good news about the NHL schedule, just like constantly changing, is that we can constantly change what we want to do too.
Yeah, exactly.
So end of February, beginning of March, we'll hand out our big prize pack, which is a jersey of your choice, some fourth line merch, but we'll hand out fourth line puck, coaster. Still got some old hockey cards around here. We'll send those out to you. So the way it works, we pick our Pavel Bure must-watch game of the day every day of the week. you head over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. Tell us what you think the score of the game will be. If you are correct about the winner, you get a point for each score in the game after that. If you are correct, you get a second point. Let's take a look at the standings. I do have them sorted. Jordan Godaro currently has 28 points. And then there is a big old slew behind him. Brody Kottman has 23. Matt, from Reasons Are, and from a certain point of skew, I suppose, is 21. And then we've got that we'll stop there because it's a misorganized mess on my spreadsheet right now after that. So that's who we got. So Jordan, see if you can hold on tight, get that jersey. But until then, it's time for us to pick our games. What game do you want to watch on Tuesday, January 25th?
Tuesday. I want to watch Florida and Winnipeg.
Winnipeg is good. If you are starting games a little earlier, Vegas, Carolina is also good.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
On Wednesday, we have the aforementioned Boston Bruins, middle of the pack, facing the Colorado Avalanche. That's the one that I'm looking at there.
Yeah, I agree. It's the best game that night. Thursday. Who we got here? Thursday's a good slate of games. Big one.
Big slate. Lots of good teams playing bad teams that night.
Oh wait. I was gonna avoid doing a double, but then realized we already picked them.
Calgary and St. Louis or Predators Oilers?
Let's do Preds Oilers.
Preds Oilers.
My eye was drawn to that one.
Okay. That's good. 28th. That's Friday. I think I like Rangers Wild. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that game too.
All right. I currently have the Wild and Habs are playing on my television right now. They scored like the Wild. This happened earlier this week too. The Avalanche played the Habs and they had 23 shots in the first period. Right now, Minnesota has 20 shots with 5 minutes left in the first.
Hey. So the rough year for the Habs continues.
It's ugly. It's not good. Thoughts on Saturday, the usual Giant Saturday? I've got some ideas, but I want to know your thoughts.
Well, that Vegas Tampa game just jumped out at me.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think so.
Sunday, we've got a shockingly large slate of games considering we've got NFL conference finals, championship games.
Yeah, seriously.
Nothing to get excited about either.
Not really. San Jose, Carolina might be interesting.
Let's do it. Is that the return of James Reimer to Carolina?
Is
that a thing we bill things as? James Reimer returning somewhere?
Is that a storyline?
It's got to be, I think. Then Monday, an equally weird schedule of games.
Yeah,
What's the weirdest game? Let's pick that one. Which game on Monday stands out as like, why are we doing that?
I would say either New Jersey, Toronto, or Florida, Columbus.
Yeah, those both. But we haven't had Devils or the Leafs. I'm not sure if we've had a Devils game all year. So let's go that. Devils, right. Leafs.
Done.
There you go. Those are our games of the week. So head over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4 and make your picks. Tell us every day who you think is going to win. What do you think the score of the game is going to be? We will hand out points accordingly and you might win, which is great. So you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find shows, we're there for you. Subscribe. We'll be waiting for you. Monday nights, we're out. Tuesday morning, wake up. We'll be there for you. Can be there on your drive to work, just like I am every day for myself. I laugh at my own jokes too. I want you to know that. As I re-listen to the show, you've got to laugh at your own jokes.
Well, we're hilarious, Carl.
If you're not funny for yourself, who can you be funny for?
Exactly.
I don't even think I'm funny. I really need to fix things. So thefourthlinepodcast.com. We had a great article. Speaking of all-star games last week, we talked about that. Mike and Brody wrote a great article on their thoughts on what should happen with the NHL All-Star Game, and that's over at thefourthlinepodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in. Till next week.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You wish we were more pissy. If Carl was more pissy and Nick was more pissy, then you could ask us why we are so pissy.